today's forum, we have National and International Procurement Advisor, Mr. Christy Pereira, General Manager, Support Services, Star Garments Group, Mr. Emmanuel Sosita, Senior Manager, Procurement, Siam City Cement, Lanka Limited, Mr. Samira Landekumura, and the forum will be moderated by Supply Chain and Lean Management Specialist, Mr. I.G. Pereira.
Good morning to everybody. It's a privilege and it's a pleasure to be here with you all, with the eminent panel of panel members and the respected audience. 2 weeks back when I told my wife we are going to have an event on 25th, so that only, I also realized it was on a poor day. Today now I have a justification after listening to Professor Nalin. On the poor day now we are engaged with Dharmadani. So I have a proper justification now. I think it came out of with the Ananda touch. So thank you, Professor. So in this particular forum in Procurement and Supply Chain Management Masters, I think this is a unique feature that we are conducting this kind of an event. So I think we had an insightful discussion or lecture from Mrs. Sajivani Muthunayaka, going into a lot of details. What is a procurement plan and what kind of procurement methods with her experience. So after listening to her, I thought of starting this particular discussion from our eminent panel member, Mr. Christy Pereira, who was once an advisor to the President as well on procurement guidelines and who was instrumental in preparing the procurement guidelines, especially 2017 version. Mr. Christy, so although we have got a lot of knowledge, a lot of publications on procurement guidelines, still we face many challenges in this particular area. So there are so many areas, sometimes things are very ambiguous, concepts are not clear, conditions and context of procurements are not very clear. On top of that, we have got some level of bad governance coming in. What kind of packages? So all these are some kind of challenges. Would you please give us some insight into these challenges and how we should be overcoming these challenges? Over to you, Mr. Kisipera.
Thank you, Mr. Perra. We are talking about procurement planning. There are so many plans in this country. But the problem is whether they are implementing properly or not. Anyway, I'm not going to talk much about procurement planning because we have given lectures. There are so many eminent lecturers were there and they have given very good lectures to you all. So I'm not talking anything about this procurement planning theory, right? As Mr. I.G. Perra asked me, what are the areas that we have not touched in procurement planning? Now, procurement planning, there are so many things as that lady was telling, that the procurement category, need assessment, and there are so many, about 16 processes are there in procurement planning. But some areas, we missed it. It is there. Now, say for example, as you said, the market research. Now, normally, as a procurement specialist or the procurement professionals, they are not considering the market research is a very important thing. But it is there. You will have to do, after you do the need assessments and all these things, but you'll have to do a thorough market analysis. There you can do in two different ways. One is you can go to the field and you can find out. The other one, I don't know. Some of these, some of the countries, they practice this. They are having a pre-tender meetings for the prospective suppliers. Pre-tender meeting. This is not a pre-bid meeting, pre-tender meeting. So for that, they put a small paper advertisement. They can't call here and there. Their favor is to come for a meeting and give us some inputs. They put an advertisement for the transparency purposes, and they call for prospective bidders, and they ask, now what are the new things coming up? What are the new technologies? Right? Whether you have these items in the market. What is the price range, market price? Like that. I will give you a very small example. I don't know whether I have time. There was a tender for, it's a famous example. There was a tender for 10,000 computers. Right? They called for the tenders in the paper, NCB tender. They came. One person says the lowest is they have only 3,000 packs computers. The second lowest have 4,000. The third lowest have 6,500 or something like that. Now there is a big problem for the procurement entity, how are we going to sort this out and how are we going to buy this? Then somebody was telling the technical evaluation committee, okay, take lowest man 3,000, second lowest 4,500, other man like that. But only thing in the bidding document, they have not mentioned anything. You can't split the tender. So because the main reason is those procurement professionals didn't go to the market and see whether in Sri Lanka, one place, can you get 10,000 computers? It's not available. So they will have to go for a rebidding and that type of thing. So many things are there. So because of that, when you do procurement plan, I'm touching only one area, that is market research. Right? Most of the time, we don't touch that area. So best thing, go for a market research or call for a small meeting, pre-tender meeting, and get the knowledge, whatever you want. Right, other one you were asking about packages and some, Okay, packages and lots and slices. Those are main three things we are talking in procurement. I think the syllabus also they have said that packages and slices. Yeah. Packages and lots are normally it's there. But slices, that one, not in the procurement terminology. Packages and lots are there. Now, packages and lots, how are we going to change, how are you going to identify these packages? Whether I'm going for a packages or a total procurement or a lots. Now say, I will give you a nice example. Every day I'm coming from Rajagiriya to Colombo. There is a building next to Castle Street Hospital, the health department building. It's a 40-story building, right? Only they have put up to 20 and now stop it. Because maybe budget constraints and there may be so many problems, especially in Sri Lanka. When the government change, everything change, right? The 40-story building, government change, now 20 stories, now stopped, right? So that is the other side of it. But I am talking about the procurement, planning and procurement packages. If they have gone for a packages, they would have done it. Now, what they have given a one contract to the contractor. They do everything, the foundation, site clearance and the construction, the 20 floors, slabs, everything. But if the procurement specialist or the head of procurement in that health department, if he had planned it well, that is the planning, not that form, filling the form. That is the planning. They could have understand if they are going on a package basis, I think most of the thing they can do it. Say for example, first site clearance and that type of thing. Okay, one package. The second package is foundation and the structure. Structure, the foundation and the structure, you can go up to 40 floors. And third package, the roof. That also, by that time you don't have money. Okay, but you have done a structure, The roof is there. කොච්චර වැස්සක් දැද්ද මෙන්නෙත් නෑ. So it's that you can stop it. If you don't have a budgetary provisions, you can stop it. There are some areas like that, but I don't say you can do packaging everywhere. But packaging you can do up to some certain level, depending on the procurement item and the procurement method or category or whatever it is. And the lots and packages. I think most of the people are thinking lots. What is the difference between lots and packages? Actually, it's not so. The packages and lots you can use for anything. Information system, works, services, and the items, everything you can use it. Now, I have given the example for that working for the packages, but packages you can use for other things also, right? Only thing, the packages you can say it's a related type of things that I was talking about the building. That's what I have taken that example. It's related to others. Now say health department want to buy say 5,000 computers and say laptops 500 and another scanners and printers say 200, right? That you can put into the lots. You can say packages, it's okay, it's all right, no problem. But packages are, it's related items. But here the large project, they want to computers, they want to scanners, they want to laptops. But that there is some similarity those items, information technology equipments. So you can go for lots. So like that you can do lots if you want. But only thing you'll have to be very careful. What do you mean that when you talk about packages and lots, it's easy to handle, easy to administrate, easy to evaluate. But some places, now I think in World Bank, they won't allow you to go for sometimes they won't allow you to split the tender. Because that is, they are trying to avoid ICB. And they go for the NCB. Because ICB, International Competitive Bidding, you will have to, lot of stages you'll have to follow. And they are little bit difficult. Therefore, they are trying to split the tender and go for small parts. But then you just imagine about I'm giving you a very simple example. How many paper advertisement you will have to put for different items? How many bid document you will have to prepare? Therefore, some places, the lots you can, lots and packages, you can use it. Now, for example, that's why I say IT equipment, big project. In a one advertisement, you can say 5,000 computers, 2,000 laptops, or 100 scanners. Like that, you can do it. So those are the things that I am talking about. This document planning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Christopher. I think it's very clear now. So in the meantime, I will request the audience to prepare with your questions. And my next questions goes to Mr. Samira Landekumura. Although we prepare a lot of procurement guidelines, supply chain guidelines, so we are prepared with theories, but sometimes the practical situation may be totally different. Thanks to COVID, many people in this country understood what supply chain is. And many people started ordering online. But in today's context, and we will not be meeting 100% or having 100% perfect conditions or context in this area. Today we have a Red Sea issue, and we understand logistics cost will be 10 times, 20 times, sometimes more when the ships takes around Africa to reach Europe. And the world is struggling in that area. Now, Samira, if I ask the questions this way, so we will not be having a perfect condition, and always we will have some crisis situations. So what do you think, what strategies we should follow to handle in supply chain management area, in procurement planning, in this kind of crisis situations?
Thank you. So Benjamin Franklin said that by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. So the procurement is the backbone in the organization. So we have to proactively take the action. We have to prepare. So you experienced that the last couple of years, even in the recent past, what's really happened in the government organizations. So they may have some set of the guidelines. So, but the last minute purchases, the procurement means surprises and a lot of cost involved. Why we should have the proper procurement plan? So if we have the proper procurement plan in your organization, so that we can enhance the transparency, we can ensure the compliance, even in the government sector, in the private sector, we have the set of guidelines given, so that we have to follow that. So then we can ensure the compliance part. And last minute purchases means you have no time to initiate your process. You have no time to develop your procurement strategy, right? So then what happened really? So that we have to purchase the material or the services at a higher price and the low quality product. So then adversely affect to your production. So nowadays we are in a very, very critical environment. So due to the political instability and the economic crisis and the import restriction, so many things happen in the world. So how we can overcome this situation? So the one thing is the flexibility in your the process and the procedure. So that is a one strategy. You have to change your process or the procedure, or sometimes you can change your production schedule. You have to change the distribution channel. You have to change the logistic routes. So otherwise, if you have the resilient supply chain, so that you can you can manage that the situation effectively. So then another strategy, so the collaboration. So with the internal stakeholders or the external stakeholders, or with the customers, with the suppliers. So then we have to, they do the effective communication, sharing the information. That visibility is very important to the organization to take the decision. So then the inventory levels, so what is the production schedule. So then if that information is visible to everybody, so then the management can take a decision. So then we can proactively address to the changes. There's so many disruption happen in the supply chain. So that we have to quickly quickly respond to that changes, right? So then we should have another strategy. We should have the secondary plan, backup plan. If you face any disruption in your supply chain, so then simply you can change to the backup plan, right? So then if you have, for example, if you have one supplier, raw material supply in your supply chain, so you identify that risk, right? So then what we have to do, we have to initiate our process well in advance, and then we have to develop another suppliers. So then we can mitigate that risk, right? So another strategy is the risk assessment. Each and every organization should assess their risk, right? So then which area we have the risk. So then what are the risk mitigation plan? So then we have to implement that plan. Otherwise, so that in the disruption in the supply chain, no one can face, right? So that's the reason to in the government sector, even in the SME, right? So then another strategy, the data, right? Most of the organization, basically we take the decision based on the analyzing the historical data. Then we analyze the data and we realize the trend. And then we know that what will happen in the next year, what will happen in the next month. right? But the most of the organization, they don't have the information, they don't have the data, because manually they handle. There is no digital platform to that organization. So then what really, so then not available that information, so then we cannot take a decision in advance, right? So there is a risk. So finally, so what we have to do is, and then we have to closely monitor that is the responsibility of the supply chain manager, to closely monitor the system. I identify the performance or any improvement is required in the process. So then we have to take a decision quickly. So otherwise it's really difficult to survive in the business. So that is the basically strategic in this dynamic environment. In the private sector, mostly take that decision. So, but even the SME in the organization. So, because of each and every organization in the supply chain, they have the responsibility. What really happened in the nowadays, we simply pass that inefficiencies to the next level. In the supply chain, there are so many organizations, these suppliers or the people in the supply chain. If I have the inefficiency means the cost. Simply what I do, so then I simply pass that cost to the inefficiency to the next level. So then next level have the same inefficiency, then pass to the next. So what really happened at the end up, so then the price we define based on the manufacturing cost. So then the consumer, the MRP is too high. So then it's a responsibility, each and every organization in the supply chain, they have to optimize their cost. They have to optimize their inefficiencies, identify the process and then inefficiencies, and then they have to take a decision. Sometimes in the private sector, so because we have the liberty to control our price, right? We cannot control the market price, right? There is some authorities define the prices, and the market itself define the prices. We can increase the prices, but adversely affect to our volume, right? But we have the liberty to control our cost. We can go through the inefficiencies, go through our process, identify the area and optimize that. So as well as, so that we have to discuss with our suppliers as well. Sit together and openly discuss where the inefficiencies happen in their process. So then we can advise them, please answer to this area, so then you can minimize the cost. So these are the strategies which I believe that we have to take in this dynamic situations.
Thank you very much, Samira. I think to add to that, I can remember in one organization we implemented lead supplier strategy. The total volume divided into two suppliers, 80% to one supplier and 20% to another supplier. So dual supplier strategy we implemented. Also in another organization, we implemented a vendor managed inventory strategy. We selected a vendor. We asked the vendor to manage the inventories, and we planned procurement also that way in that particular strategy. So it was up and running very well and smooth operation. Before I open the audience to ask questions, I would like to ask from Mr. Emmanuel Susita. Now, you are an expert in the apparel industry. Apparel industry nowadays has faced a crisis. The demand is shrinking and the industry is shrinking. Whether it is a Y generation, no alpha generation have different consumer behavior. They are not very much interested with the brands. Sometimes the cost factor is the main decision on the procurement. So in that sense, so you are facing a crisis in the case of a demand, and in the country, industry is shrinking, and already more than 100,000 trained operators have lost the jobs. So what kind of strategies you would propose to combat this kind of a crisis situation when it comes to procurement planning?
Yeah. Now, when it comes to apparel, I think it's a total different ball game. It's not public procurement planning. Now, I would say, first of all, if you want to, before we understand how we do procurement planning, it's important that we have some level of an understanding of the business model. Now, let me put it like this way. Now, we'll take Toyota. Now, if you take Toyota, based on different algorithms, based on different demand patterns, they may decide that we are going to produce 1 million Prius in 2024. Right? So at that point, I think according to our keynote speaker, there were few parameters for planning: what to procure, when to procure, how much to procure. At that point, Toyota knows exactly what is their plan, how they can actually formulate a plan. But when you look at apparel, we are actually using the MTO model in the business model, that is make to order at industry scale, right? So and I think all of you all know that in apparel that there's no fixed model that I'm going to produce this shirt throughout the year, because season to seasons, as you said, year to year, the product changes. The changes are very eminent. So if we go, I mean, why I said that was like there's no fixed place that I'm going to formulate my procurement plan for the entire year or this particular season, etc., etc. Because it has to, the procurement planning is an evolving process when it comes to apparel. I'll explain to you with an example. Now, the first activity in the total entire production life cycle is design. Right? The design is happening. Now, unfortunately, the entire apparel supply chain is governed by the end consumer, or even our brand, or that retailer of the overseas, because there's very little minimal input that or even impact or control that we can put into the entire apparel supply chain. That's how it's been governed. Because that's so, being that even at the designing stage, the entire design or from the concept itself is being dictated by the brand or the retailer, that consumer. So when the designer formulates that, okay, this is exactly what I am going to produce, I want for this season to sell, then only that we will have some level of an understanding for the first question that we ask on the apparel planning: what do you want to procure? At that point, we'll stick into, now we have many raw materials, but we'll stick into the fabric for the moment. So at that point, when designer decided only that we have some level of an understanding, okay, this is the type of fabric that he's going to focus on for this particular season. But still at that point, I don't have any visibility how much to procure and when to procure. When to procure, yes, slightly I may have some level of an understanding, but how much to procure, there's no idea at all. Because now this particular designing process happens months ago. Now, for an example, if I lay that, now these days, I will say month of Jan, Feb, March, this time period, the products that we develop, right? That is design and developing now will be on the retail floor in America in spring 2025. That is in April, May time. So we are designing and developing now, right? So it's you can see the time frame. So now I have some level of visibility. Okay, what I'm going to procure, what material that I'm going to procure, but I don't have visibility of how much I'm going to procure, because customer or the brand will not give us an indication of how much that he's going to buy, he's going to procure, right? That information we will receive only, I would say, in average about 90 days time, right? In 90 days time. So at the time of design and development, at that point we know, okay, which suppliers that we are going to approach, but we don't know, we can't even raise a purchase order up until 90 days before. I mean, actually that time is getting shrinked more and more. Now there are certain models, it's driven 14 days time. So you get an order confirmation only 14 days before your expected shipment, right? So, but in average, we can think about 90 days time. So at a 90 days time only that I know that how much I need to procure in order to deliver these goods to the customer on time. So what we do is like then only that we actually derive from our production plans, and then we use MRP models to come up with the requirement to make sure that we get goods just in time, as well as to adhere to certain lean principles, because we can't keep stocks in order for us to manage. So that is why I have mentioned it's challenging and it's so dynamic that the procurement planning in our industry actually is an evolving thing from the concept to up to the delivery. So there's no fixed plan made and say, okay, this is exactly I'm going to execute. No, it's not going to happen. So the challenges that you have just mentioned. Now, one of the biggest challenges that we have in apparel right now, we are mostly dependent for our raw materials, especially fabric. I would say 90% dependent from overseas suppliers, because we don't produce it in Sri Lanka. So the timing is one of the key factors which affects our business right now. Now, I believe that we cannot look at procurement planning in isolation. So it has to be looked into with all the other factors also considered in the supply chain. For example, we definitely need to consider the logistics, right? Now, just now you mentioned about a crisis. Now, a Red Sea crisis. Now, we import fabric from Turkey, from Italy, those kind of destinations. Now, immediately, the lead time for us to receive fabric from Italy or Turkey has increased by another 2 weeks, right? So that's the dynamic, that's the challenge that we have, right? You cannot bring that. So that is one aspect of the logistics. But then there's another example I can tell you. Now, if you can remember, I think in 2022, US made a ban on Chinese one province, Xinjiang province, right? They are the largest cotton producer in China. In China, I think they are catering for about 87% of Chinese demand, cotton demand, and also 23% of the entire world's cotton demand. Because of forced labor, US banned immediately, saying that if we produce garments from the cotton produced in Xinjiang province, it is not allowed in US. Immediate. At that point, I can remember that we have already placed a huge order with organic cotton, which obviously coming from that particular province, right? So we had to immediately cut off, and then we'll have to replan our entire procurement thing, where we had to bring cotton from North India into China to produce fabric and bring it to us. So those are some of the challenges that we have, main challenges that we face in order for us to keep competitive. And also that those are the challenges that we have where we cannot keep our procurement plan static. It's keep on changing, dynamic, because of external challenges. Now, in order for us to overcome that, some of the strategies that we use, I think apparel industry is one of the industry in Sri Lanka especially heavily invest on technology, right? We have invested heavily in technology for us to, one thing, just to get the connectivity with our suppliers, so we get information well in advance, so we can take certain informed decisions and rearrange our plans. And also we use a lot of data, as my colleague said, right? A lot of data to analyze and see what are the trends and where could be the issues, etc., to cater and fix all these changes to our procurement plan. So I think I've answered your question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Susit. So I think we have an insight. Some of the strategies that we have used in some organizations is one is postponement strategy. Now, when we don't have the required level of lead time, say for an order, when the customer places an order with 4 months lead time, sometimes if we order fabric at that point, so we are not, basically confirm what colors. We are just given an estimated BOM. So you don't have all the information to order fabric from the supplier, and fabric supply sometimes takes 2 months, 3 months. So out of the total lead time, sometimes 50% go to the fabric supply. So if you waited till customer gives us the total information, colors and sizes and everything, we don't have enough time. So what we order is, we order gauge from the fabric supplier. We ask them to, we calculate and we see we need 10,000 meters of fabric. We ask the supplier, you produce gauge, colorless fabric. We will tell you in the meantime with what color it should be dyed after getting the confirmation from the customer. So that kind of postponement strategies, we are, waiting till the customer gives you the final version to confirm the suppliers exactly what we want. That kind of. Also, sometimes some strategies when we don't have required lead time, the shipment to New York to be hit on a particular date. So if we can't sometimes produce. So if the ship goes via Dubai, what we do is we air freight it to Dubai, and from the Dubai we put the shipment to the same shipment. The supplier won't feel, but it is with an extra cost. So we have to bear that cost. So those are some of the strategies, but these strategies are due to sometimes maybe inefficiencies, maybe fluctuation of demand, the crisis situations that suppliers face, all these. So now I am opening the forum or the session to the audience. So you have the opportunity to now raise your questions. Yes, please.
To the panel. One question was that we were the first in Southeast Asia, especially I am taking the garment example. Now we are a $5 billion industry. But countries like Bangladesh, who started much later than us, is a $50 billion industry. So where did we go wrong in, we were the first there, but now Bangladesh is way ahead of us in the region. What is your insight on the economics and the efficiencies of this?
Yeah, now if you look at this, it's a very, very valid question. Now we were, I think at the end of quota, I think in Bangladesh as well as Sri Lanka, it's kind of producing same level of exports. But now Bangladesh has, I think, even grown massively compared to Sri Lanka. The one major reason is, I didn't mention that in my previous discussion, like whatever said and done, for us, the biggest challenge right now is price. Because when it comes to pricing, now when we do the same costing for a product, say I'm costing a t-shirt, right? So I offer my customer $1.50, right? That is my price. But for some reason, Bangladesh still could be able to offer it to $1. So we, by experience, we know that whenever that we counter quote cost, when the customers are counter costing with Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, we are somewhere around $50 to $1 off. I think one of the biggest we see that two reasons. One is actually their cost of labor. Cost of labor is very cheap. Now, recently, I think you all know that there was a huge crisis and then riots, etc., to increase their wages. They increased their wages, but still Bangladesh is at below a $200 mark, where we are at about $250 to $300 the cost per operator, right? Even with that increase. So that is one biggest reason that we have. And the second thing is that they have the advantage of verticality, right? So they, if you go to any Bangladesh companies or a manufacturer, they are not just cut and make manufacture. They are not sewing. They are not only sewing the garment. They actually have their verticality. They have their own mill that is like for yarn, and they have their own fabric mill where they do all that. So with that luxury we don't have in Sri Lanka. We don't actually have. Right now, I think we have very few fabric mills. I'm talking about only fabric, right? Because that's biggest component of a garment. So I think we have very few fabric mills in Sri Lanka, right? Brandixes have, and MAs have, and Hydraman and few other people has, but it is catering only for about very minimal demand for Sri Lankan demand apparel, right? Everything else comes from outside. So you can think now that is one on the cost aspect. Now when you are vertical, the other advantage that you have is your time frames your lead times are very shorter, right? So whenever that we now if you look at in Sri Lankan context, now I want to give a timeline to my customer. I need to consider not only fabric production lead time in China, which is say 30 days, right? Then I need to plug in another 22 days for sailing, for shipping from China to Sri Lanka. Now whenever I quote a lead time, a time frame to the my customer, where Bangladesh, where they have their own mill, right, will quote 22 days speeder than me, right? So their speed to market is very short. So they can actually give it to a very short lead times, right? So those are I would say the couple of main reasons. One, cost, and then the second is lead time, where we are unable to challenge and we are unable to grab business from Bangladesh, because we have seen the customers say that the cost and the lead time. Because why still we have some business in Sri Lanka is because of our speciality and ethical standards. That's the reason. Otherwise, cost wise we are off, lead time wise we are completely off. So but because of certain quality standards, because of certain procedures and practices, because of ethical standards, certain customers are still with us. I think I answered your question in general.
We can entertain one more question from the audience with the time frame. Yes, please. Yeah, please.
Actually, now looking at all these questions and discussion went on, I'm coming from supply chain management. That's my special area. So, overall, actually, more than a question, let me please give a comment. In overall, what I see now, why procurement is not a profession, because people have not identified what supply chain is before everything. Because procurement is the part of supply chain, and supply chain itself yet has not been given the proper prominence. The due place has not been given. And then the other thing is, now all the issues that we have talking this far, I think all of them are centered around the misalignment of the function. I mean, because we are one organization, we have common priority to achieve, and then what is the contribution given by supply chain and then by procurement? So that alignment is missing in single organization and also as a country. So that's why water body is doing something else, RDA doing something else, because that integrated approach is not there. We all are running in our functional silos, where we are looking at only our function and the holistic picture is missing. So I think that is where we are, like, we have gone wrong. And then we have been in the supply chain industry. I think we have a bigger role to play. Look here, without taking your supply chain right, you won't be anywhere, because we have one organization. So what is the strategic alignment? We do not actually looking at that broader picture. So that could be one reason why procurement is actually not taken. The importance of it is not understood by everyone. So that could be, I think that's what I want to just mention.
Yeah. Thank you very much, madam, for your contribution. Yes, please.
In a business organization, actually, the cores are marketing and the operations. So in what I see in the discussion, that we are not that coming from the marketing perspective, and then looking at the production. So that's what I would add. And another small clarification I want to have from Mr. Susitha. So that you explain us the process of that come in the orders, that when the US stuff from China, you order through the India. So is that in when you are looking at the source, that the customer looking at the source, are you telling that those materials came from India or China? So that issue is there. So thank you.
Now, transparency of the supply chain is a huge topic, right? Now, all our customers, now we must provide each and every material, even a small thread or a button, where we sourced, where is actually the inception of that particular button also. So whenever that we mention that in those records, what we do is like, okay, what we mention is, okay, we source the yarn or the cotton from India and manufactured in China. It is not it is not banned to manufacture the fabric in China. It is banned to use those cotton from the Xinjiang province and manufacture fabric. So what we say is, we mention that, okay, we purchased cotton from India, but fabric manufacturing X mill in China. So but nowadays, if you look at in all the apparel manufacturers, you can just get that info. We have to expose our supply chain transparency. It is given. There's no chance about it. That's how it works.
Thank you very much, Susis. Actually, it's, everybody understand now. It is point of origin to point of consumption, PO to POC at the end of the day. So we need to disclose. We have to be transparent in all these point of origins. Before I come to you, you can have 2 minutes, Samira, to answer this question. It's very important that we should be developing resilience. So otherwise, we will not be able to face future crises. What can you say about the strategies in 2 minutes to develop resilience in supply chain management?
Just now we are in the interconnected economics and the supply chain. So the supply chain having the various disruptions, as I mentioned initially. So then we should have the proper procurement plan to mitigate the risk and to respond that changes very quickly, right? So then the various strategies followed by the organization. So then the proper procurement plan, because the procurement should have the enough time to develop their procurement strategy. So as she said, so then tomorrow morning I want this material. So then it's a dark purchase. Dark purchase means so the beyond the given guidelines or the process or the procedure, we purchase a lot of things. They finally said that, so there is a corruption. So so many issues. So there is a transparency issue, there is a compliance issue, and the high cost, low quality, so many things. So the main strategy is that we have to proactively build our resilience to the supply chain. So otherwise, no way to survive in the market. So that is a simple answer as a professional. So then you take some time. So you have to go to the market and do the market analysis and take a decision, right? So in a certain organization, lot of organization using the digital platform for the planning purpose, right? Some organization, in my organization, there is a concept of the magic triangle. That means that the procurement is one corner, user is another corner, and the specifier is another corner. Specifier means that the specialist person, maybe engineer or the quality department, who provide that skills to that forum. So then all together take a decision. So then we decide what required and when required and from which source we are going to purchase. So then the procurement guy has this enough time to develop their strategy, go to the market, study who are the suppliers, who are the alternative suppliers, alternative materials, or the another versions. So then he can provide the solution and get the best price. So now it's not the purchasing. So we have to think about how many values they add to our business, right? Not the savings. So the savings means that they initially they provide the higher cost, and then they know the margin, and then negotiation happen. So then they reduce that price. Then we say that I have saved this much to the organization. Really, there is no saving. That's a cost avoidance. But the procurement is the process. You have to go to the market, analyze, and then get the alternative suppliers, and then proactively initiate the process well in advance. That is the number one strategy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Christy Perra, Samira, and Mr. Emmanuel for joining this particular panel discussion. Also, we must thank the Faculty of Management of OUSL for creating this opportunity. So finally, I think we all should be developing future leaders. At least one day we can have a green light at the end of the tunnel. This country will be marching towards prosperity. That is a responsibility, I think, lies with us. Thank you so much. So with that, we'll conclude this particular panel discussion. All the best.